Hi there, my name is Harry Turpin, and I am the director-choreographer for The Prom, playing at Tacoma Musical Playhouse. And sitting with me is...
I'm Amelia Stiles, and I play Emma Nolan in The Prom.
I'm Kaelynn Miller, and I play Alyssa Green in The Prom.
And we are here to talk about what The Prom means to us. I think the biggest thing for me when putting The Prom together or thinking about how to approach it was taking a look back at a time where things were not as they are now, right? So I think that we're very lucky that we live in the area that we do because we have a lot of acceptance and you know, for lack of a better term, wokeness in this area, but an ability to accept and love people for who they are. And being able to approach it and figure out how do we tap into those things that are in our distant, not so distant past, but still very real and happening in other places. And how do we do that justice while still being able to be the woke people that we are and true to ourselves? It was an interesting problem, I thought. I don't know how you guys were thinking about that as we approached the play.
I think what I thought about a lot was The Prom is a comedy. And that's like the first thing I noticed when I see it and watch it. It's a hilarious show, but it's surrounded by a story that's so relevant and real and true and needs honesty, and to be genuine with it is something hard. And I found that a challenge, was keeping up that comedic aspect while being like, oh, this is a real story that needs to be told, and like, how do we do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And balancing the line between the comedic bits and the serious moments that are happening with some of these characters as they're discovering who they are. What about for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was like being authentic to the story and like all the different like intersections of the people in the show, in the community, and like especially like Alyssa as a person, with her being Black and her being gay and being a cheerleader and like head of ASB and all this stuff, and like how that all like really connects for her and connects to all the people in her town, and just like what that means like in the greater aspect of the world.
Right. There's a lot of things to unpack there, right?
Yeah.
And all those real life problems that are kind of crammed into this 2.5 musical comedy. How do you touch on all those things and give them relevance and importance while still also being light and having a good evening out of the theater? It's an interesting problem to have.
Yes, very interesting.
So comedy comes from tragedy, right? In order for things to be funny, you kind of have to find a way to work through it. And one of the things that I really like about this show is you get to see the different generations and how they deal with the heavy things, right? For our younger folks, it tends to be fairly straightforward between Emma and Alyssa about the conversation, the heavy things that they're having. But for our older folks, the Broadway folks and you know, some of those characters, you see them in a much more jovial sort of joking mood, even though they've gone through very similar things. And you get this interesting sort of perspective about how things were and working through those things, and then how things are now. And that was something that was really interesting to me as we were putting this play together, just reading it and talking about how do we deal with those things and what can we bring to those. And I know for myself, being of an older generation than both of you, but I know that was the way that we coped with things, right? We laughed about it. We didn't have the serious conversations. We didn't battle things straight on. We had a way to work around it and be like, oh, well, that thing, we're just going to make light of that. We're just going to make light of that. So that way we weren't necessarily dealing with it. And that's for our therapist to unpack later. But I'm curious for either of you, like, as you're approaching this, if there's any sort of sense of your realness from today and just how you exist in the world and what you're bringing to the characters and how you are dealing with the seriousness in the show.
I love Emma, and Emma's extremely personal to me, and I think that her story is important for any audience, like whether you can relate or whether you can. I think her story is very important. And something I do notice about the show, specifically with Emma and Alyssa, is how straightforward they are with their problems. And there are very few shows that really dive into the actual like experiences of being an LGBTQ plus teenage girl. And most of the time it can be hinted in shows or like they'll make a joke here and there, but this is the only one that I know of that really just flat out says it. And I really like that. So I think it's honestly easy to tell her story when a script is being so flat out about it. But then through that, I can like add that genuine nature and what I think her personality is like and what her story is actually like. And something that I'm very excited for is just knowing that there's Emma and Alyssa's in the audience and all around that need to hear this story and want to see it. And although it's a cheesy, fun musical, there's such like a heartfelt story behind it.
Well, and I think that that's the thing, Amelia, that's really interesting, is that the straightforwardness between Emma and Alyssa is really kind of what the whole gay rights movement has been about, right? It's like, just treat us like anybody else, right? It's just, we live in a world now where things happen so quickly, but I remember when marriage equality happened. I remember those things and how monumental it was for us to all of a sudden have this experience to say, yes, I finally have the same rights as somebody else to be able to love my partner and to be able to express it that way. And the straightforwardness of their relationship really, I don't want to say forces the audience, but just says, this is what it is. It is literally this conversation that you have probably had with your partner or somebody else. It is just a relationship issue that they need to work out. Really comes down to communication and taking that step forward. And I really like that about this story.
It doesn't sugarcoat anything.
Not at all. It's just like, this is what it is. Here's what it is. And we accept it. So you should accept it too. What are your thoughts?
I really love like how explicit like Emma and Alyssa's relationship like is, in terms of like, it's like there's no denying that they're together. Like, even though like the relationship is secret, like the entire show, like they are like very obviously together, and there are just like so few roles for that, like in musical theater especially. Like I genuinely like can't really think of a show where there's like two like contemporary female characters who get to be in like a sapphic relationship together. And I just love how real it is, and I definitely see a lot of myself in Alyssa, and I feel like I pull a lot from my real life into playing Alyssa. And like these characters are just like full people, and I really like how the story like has been written for them, and like they do get like a happy ending, which like a lot of queer characters don't get.
Right. There's something about queer trauma porn, essentially, is what it's called, right? Where they talk about, you know, if you have a queer character, they're going to meet some untimely demise.
Somebody's going to die.
Somebody's going to die, and it's usually right, exactly. So it's really nice to not have that, and to have this sort of celebration of all of the colors of the rainbow in this play, right? And be able to hit that, and for everybody to, I don't know, spoilers, but you know, for everybody to kind of rally around and just get into that place of like, you know, all we want to do is just the same thing. I love that resonating through the theme, right? It's, I just want to dance with you, right? As the song says, that's all I want to do. And it's so funny that small little act can cause such big feelings from people, to be like, oh, you can't do that. And it's like, but why not? I mean, what's wrong with that, right? I think it's a really interesting script that we have, and an opportunity that we have to tell this story.
It's all about acceptance, and just like we're all individuals and different, of course, but we're all not that different. It's everyone's similar in different ways, and even if you don't relate to Emma and Alyssa's story, and even if you're a cis straight person, you can still see in this show how people learn to love and learn to accept and learn to live not only beside each other, but to support each other. And I think that's really what the show is about. Like, above being a gay teen and just like surviving in a community that isn't made for you, and like where everyone doesn't like you. Above all of that, it's just about communal love.
I think that's really so prescient and so smart, Amelia, because like, love, right? Lin-Manuel said that thing about love is love is love is love, right? When he accepted his Tony Award for Hamilton, was it? I think, I'm assuming it was Hamilton. Probably. One of 7,000 Tony Awards that he accepted. But I kept thinking about that, and I remember when that came out, and how big of a deal it was for everybody to just simply express and say love is love, right? And that's really what it comes down to, is love thy neighbor, as you mentioned, Trent's song. It's really just love the person, because I'm not perfect, you're not perfect, you're not perfect. Nobody out there is perfect, but if we're all doing our best and we're loving with pure intention, that's really what it comes down to. And I think if there was any message that the audience could take away is that it doesn't matter if you love a woman or a man or a transgendered person. It doesn't matter in those moments because your love is pure, right? There's room in this beautiful rainbow, this gorgeous pride flag rainbow that we have for everybody to fit inside that.
The thing that's also really important in this show is how much hate there is. And there's a line that Emma has where she says, nobody is talking about the hate. There's just so much hate. And she says that like regardless of anything going on, all she wants is there to not be hate. So I think with the love, it's also so good for audiences to see like there can be so much hate in this world so easily and in such a simple manner. Like no one is physically fighting each other in this show. It's just words, and it's just what your words can do to other people in the way that you treat them.
Yeah, love is truly the most powerful force in the world. It really is. And that is loving your friends, loving your partners, loving your neighbor, as the song says, but just that extra step in being kind to people and just recognizing that it's so easy to love, right? As opposed to it feels like a conscious choice to hate, and it's like who wants to make that choice, right?
No, like the characters in the show, I feel like the ones who are like explicitly like really hateful, like they like go out of their way to be really hateful, like the bear in the locker.
Right.
That is like a crazy moment. Like they took time out of their day to do that when they could have just like not and just like lived their lives regularly, and Emma could have just like lived her life regularly, and they could have just not done that. But like they all like make the choice to be like incredibly mean to you for like no real reason. And
and it's interesting because for your character and Lanita, who's playing your mom, right? There's all of these things about raising and just sort of the political environment that exists around that, and what we're being told, and the dogma, and all of that stuff that people believe. But it really does come down to you can make your own choice about loving as opposed to hating, right? It's really that simple. And I guess that would be the thing that I would give to the audience as a takeaway is like, you have a choice. You have a choice how you want to be in this world. And I think that ties it back to the line in the show, which is nobody gets to tell you how to live your life, right? So even if somebody has said, hey, this is wrong, or I don't understand this or whatever, you as an autonomous human being get to make the choice to say, yeah, I don't agree with that. And I'm going to love everybody just as if they were my neighbor or my family or whatever that is. I think that's really beautiful and kind of the way that I hope everybody walks through life. Yeah. So we want everyone to come and see the prom, yes?
Yes.
Great. And when do we run? We run May 17th through June 9th at Tacoma Musical Playhouse. That website is tmp.org. Tickets are on sale now. It's going to be a great time. Anything that has stood out to you, just like fun moments or what the audience can expect?
I'd say regardless of this beautiful story that we're telling, the show is just so fun. And there's so many amazing moments, and it's just so colorful and just like jaw-dropping. So I think it's really fun,
What about for you?
Fun. I think everybody's going to fall in love with a character. Like all of us have like very specific beats and moments, and like there's somebody for everybody in the show because of like the personalities of everybody in the show. Like there's just like no way you can hate the show. In my personal opinion.
It's just a fun show. It's just a fun show. Nice. So we invite everybody to come down and check out the prom playing at Tacoma Musical Playhouse May 17th through June 9th. See you there.